Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the autopsy of the knob sound HiFi valve tube amplifier. Now, I did think that for many of you to see an instrument of such high quality being systematically torn down might be a little bit traumatic. So we joined the proceedings when all the entrails are on the table, so to speak. So I will start out by going through the main elements of the construction, and then we'll get into the more detailed pieces of it. So one of my favorites is the shroud for the transformers, which is a beautiful MDF box which seems to be made of two pieces of MDF at least, if not four. So because I'm not quite sure what the thickness of the top is, but the thickness of the two sides here is greater than the thickness of the front and back, and they have V grooves cut in them, and then the whole thing is folded up and glued, and then obviously heavily painted and coated on the outside, except where the rear panel goes on. The rear panel is actually made of metal, yeah, so I imagine that since this amplifier exists in many different under many different names, clearly this is a changeable device where you would put the individual name. Similarly, on the top there is an acrylic piece screwed to the top, and this is essentially a clear piece of acrylic with the logo of the particular brand probably screen printed onto it, and it's got some dual-sided tape to hold it down while you get the 4 screws. There you are. I think you'll agree, a quality item. It was one of my favorite parts of the whole construction. So that's the transformer shroud. Next, if I look at the main body housing, we can see it's got these two beautiful pieces of wood either side, made of finest vinyl coated MDF, which you can see where the folds are on the inner corners, and it looks like to fit them to the side, I'm only guessing here, but it looks like there's a number of screws. There's 3 screws each side that are screwed in from the outside, so the heads protrude, and I presume they then drill little holes on the inner side of the of this wooden part to locate it, while they apply lots of glue to hold the whole thing together. And so there we have the main body. Good solid construction. Next, let's look at the base plate. Whoops. So here is the base plate, which has got some chunky feet on the bottom and a mains transformer. The mains transformer has got a center tapped 17017 secondary, which is this one, and it has 2 6.8 volt secondary windings, and I guess from working on vintage radios and stuff, you tend to expect that the heater wires will be fairly heavy duty coming out of the transformers, and the B plus, if you like, will be less chunky. This is the other way around. Anyway, so there we go. So I did read up that the heaters in the tubes or valves in here are run a little bit aggressively to get them that little bit brighter. But of course that means it shortens the life. So there we go. That's the base plate. I guess the first really interesting part for me is the whole mounting for the valves. And so The first challenge here is in understanding exactly what the valves are and how they're pin out wired and everything else. And there does seem to be a lot of conflicting information out there on the net. And I have seen multiple pinouts of 6N1s and 6P1s, which are not the same as this. And this one, as you can see, is fully Chinese. And this one is the closest I've found to what is actually in this amp. So these are because there are people who talk about a 6P1 and a 6P1P. There's a Russian tube, which people say you can substitute, but based on my reading up so far, I'm not too sure that would be a good idea. And there's also, I've read on various forums of people who made these substitutions and either cooked all their tubes or cooked the amp itself. Anyway, essentially what we have here is the 6N1 and the 6P1 in each channel. I'll see if I can get close here. So the 2 times 6.8 volts come in on a connector here, and the heater pins on all of these valves are pins 4 and 5, and so you can see that this inner one here comes in and goes to those 2 pins here, 4 and 5. So we can get a pointer or something here. So it goes to pin 4 and 5, and then they parallel over to the one next to it, so to this 4 and 5. And they have flowed additional solder on the tracks to carry the current, because if I'm interpreting this document correctly, the spec sheets, there's up to an amp or 1.2 amps even for each channel going here. Just a little unfortunate that when they were flowing this extra solder, it didn't quite go all the way. So if you look down here, this is just the underlying bare track on these two until it gets up to here, and then from here you have the additional solder on the track. Likewise, when it comes in on this side, it just gets as far as here, and then you have a big break in the solder until you get up to the top, and then we're good again. And then as it goes along, it comes over to this tube on this side. But you probably can't see it, but the additional solder doesn't make it all the way to the tube pin. So again, you have these little potential hotspots. And same over here, when the solder is coming over to get to this pin, it's just a bare track as well. There's the solder didn't quite take all the way. So yes, what can I say? So for the rest of it, I haven't traced it all out yet, but as near as I can figure, you essentially have some power coming in here, this connector, this header, which goes off to the main board, and so you have the heaters coming in on this connector. Then over here you have the 2 signals coming from the main board, which will then go through the tubes and go back out. And so you have so you'll have like a ground and a power, and 2 ins and 2 outs at least here. As I say, I haven't traced it all out yet, but I'm pretty sure that these valves are not doing anything. They're just really passing the signal through, but they have the benefit that the signal won't pass through until the valves heat up. So it creates the illusion in the valve and the amp overall that it's a pucker valve amp. So I think I'll be rescuing some sockets off of this board, and that's about it. The rest will be discarded. So let's get to the main meat of the innards of this thing. And so when I first saw it from the outside, and I saw this big heatsink and all these little pins in line here along each channel, I assumed this was one of those semiconductor packages that had the entire amp sort of built into it. But I was wrong. It is entirely discrete. To me it's a very curious mixture, because you have lots of, if you like, what I call ultra-modern surface mount stuff, and then you have an entire discrete section, which goes back to my days when I was working in this type of stuff. So the transformer comes in here, bridge rectifier, power supply stuff, relay before it turns on the power to the rest, and then you basically have a plus and minus 12 volt regulators here. You have a 455 op amp over here in the whole tone control section. You have another 455 here in the volume section. This is a I forget the number, but it's basically a quad analog switch where your inputs, you have two inputs, CD and auxiliary, I think it's just called, or CD and tuner, and then they get selected by this little switch here, and there you go. That's kind of it. And so this is the header where the signals go off out to the tubes and then come back in again. So one of the experiments I'm going to try later on is, I'm pretty sure if I just identify which are the outputs and inputs here and I just link them together, this little thing here will all function perfectly well as an amplifier on its own right without the need for anything else. And so yes, there you go. So that's the main board, as I say. Either I might partially reassemble the amp without the valves in it at all, and just have it as like a workbench amp that I can use. Yeah, I'll just go and look up what those, because I made a note of what the discretes were. So we have tip 41C and tip 42C as the outputs. We have B647 and D667 as the two drivers, NPNs and PNPs, and then we have the 2N5551 and NPN in the middle here on both sides. So that's kind of the layout. This quad analog switch over here is a CD4052, just for reference. And as I say, I haven't gone into it any more than that at the moment, because I haven't decided. I would either salvage the discretes out of this, you know, the relay, the components, the transistors. I wouldn't mess with the surface mounts because I'm not geared up to deal with surface mount at all. Or I'll put it all back together without the valves and I'll have it as a bench amp, and that's probably the more probable outcome of the two at the moment. What else? The rest of the entrails, this little board here is the headphone socket, and I guess the on-off switch, which would poke through here and have these little lights lighting up the surround. Yes, here is the actual on-off switch itself. It will poke through here. Then we have the dual phono inputs on the back. Then I have the speaker outputs. Definitely worth keeping those. And then we have the tubes. The actual shrouds that are around the valve, the cages that are around the valves, are individually made with a gazillion components. So you have a very long bolt which goes from the bottom of the circuit board all the way up through. You have a little standoff here which effectively pushes the tube socket up against the top of the housing. Then you have like some a little surround tube goes around it, and then you put the little polished plates, and so you end up with quite a lot of individual components when you take all four of these valve shrouds apart. And the shroud itself looks kind of like this, polished on one side, not on the other. I don't think that's chromed. I think it's just whatever metal it is, they just highly polished it on one side. Very sharp as well. So yeah, other curious thing, this is the main volume control pot knob, and it seems like the hole in the center of it is too deep, so when you push it onto the shaft of the control here, it would rub against the metal front plate, and so they stuffed a little screw, just a loose screw down in the hole here to stop the knob going too far onto the shaft. And so there you go. Why make it complicated if it doesn't have to be? Fuse holder, all pretty standard stuff, and lots of screws. So I think those are the highlights. The other really nice thing that made me chuckle is the front panel. Nice brushed piece of metal, and I wanted to find out, if you like, any details on what this VU meter really is, to see whether or not it might be usable for anything else. And so on the back here, there is nothing on the back. You won't be able to see this because of the lighting. All there is on the back here is a telephone number. It says telephone +86 and then a number, and of course we know what country code +86 is. I just thought that was funny that there's no manufacturer name, there's no product name, there's no anything about the deflection current or anything. It's literally, here's the phone number, call this number. Anyway, so folks, that is what the innards of my particular variant of this looks like. Now I've seen on the web there's lots of different variants of it, and so I suspect, for instance, the Cool 386 website, where the guy has actually put up a conversion project to make it into a proper valve amp. It's a fair bit of finagling, and by the guy's own admission, it's not really a HiFi amp at the end. It doesn't have the specs for it, because I suspect these valves are never going to be up to it. In HiFi terms, they'd probably be okay for general stuff, but not for trying to rig it up on a phono to a turntable and stuff. So I'm not going to be doing that. And then I've seen other projects from other guys on forums that have sent me where other guys have done complete, if you like, rejig of them to make them as good quality as they possibly can. But I shan't be doing that. I will, as I say, my probable outcome right now is I'll put it all back together except the valves part, find out how to link this header here so that I don't need, and it'll run straight away from when it powers up. And yeah, I'll just put it to one side and have it as a bench amp or something like that if I need to do testing and whatever. And of course, there's another video which I might upload. I don't know yet. I had one of those nice internet radios which died on me, and I tried to fix it, but again I wasn't very successful because it's all surface mount stuff inside, but it has two very nice speakers in it, and so I can definitely salvage those two speakers and put them with this guy and then see what it sounds like, because when I plug this into my HiFi speakers, which are back from the 70s, the sound is pretty unpleasant. Very harsh, and there's no way you could get any warmth or richness out of it. But maybe if I hook it up to more modern speakers, which might have a more, how can I put it, a more bass bias, it might be okay. In any case, it would just be purely for testing purposes. So there you go, guys. That's the autopsy of my wonderful knob sound valve HiFi amplifier. There we go. Not sure what to do with the valves. I'd be hesitant to put them into my tester until I know more about what would be an equivalent pinout of a tube that I have on the list, so I'd know how to set up all the switches on the valve tester. But we'll probably have a go at that one wet Sunday afternoon when I got nothing else to do. So there you go, guys. That's that. I hope you found it interesting, and I've certainly learned a lot here by way of whether or not one should use eBay for these types of purchases. So I don't think I'd be doing that again. If I do put it all back together and check it out, then I'll do a little clip on that as well, just so you can see it, because it has the benefit, the way it is constructed, obviously for ease of assembly and production, that everything plugs into everything else, and so it's not like you have to do loads and loads of soldering or anything like that. So that is probably what I'm going to do. Right, Okay guys, that's it. More to come soon. Talk to you later. Bye for now.